I'd like to review what greatest common factor is. But the first thing that we need to know is what a factor is. And I think that's something that you should have learned in fifth grade, but it may be not the top of your list after having summer and not talking about factors for a while. So I'm going to go to this glossary piece that you get to use and look for the word factor. So it says that a factor is a whole number, quantity, or variable that is multiplied more by one or more whole numbers, quantities, or variables. Okay, or you could use it as a verb to factors to break apart a number into its factors. Okay, so here's my factor 3 and my factor 5 of 15. Okay, 3 and x could be factors of y. You multiply 3 times x to get y. To factor a number would be to break it apart into its factors. So 24 has the factor 2, 2, 2, and 3. Now this is fully broken down, which means that we are finding the prime numbers, or the prime factorization of the whole number. Okay? And I believe that the question we're being asked here is which diagram shows the prime factorization of 24. So if I'm looking for the prime factorization, I'm going to start by looking at the factors of 24 and what they break down into. So when I divide 24 by 2, I also get 12. 2 is a prime number. And if you don't remember what prime means, we can go here to prime number. And it says that it's a whole number with exactly two factors, the number itself and the number 1. So the number 1 is not prime because it only has one factor. So when I'm looking at this, 2 is a prime number. Its only factors are 2 and 1, but 12 is not a prime number. And I can break it down again. But when I break down or factor 12, do I get 8? I don't. But 3 and 8 are still factors of 24. They're just not prime factors of 24, and they are not coming from the factors here. Okay? 4 and 6, again, 4 times 6 is 24, but they are not factors of 8 and 3. Okay? Over here we have 24, and it was broken into 6, 6, 6, and 6. Now here's the thing. When I am using prime factorization, that means that I'm multiplying. We've got multiplication in prime factorization. In this, 6 times 6 times 6 times 6 is way too big. So that's not quite going to work. I understand that what they're saying may be 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6. But when I'm looking for prime factorization, we're looking at multiplication. So this one isn't quite right either. Now if I go to this one, it says 24 is being factored into 4 and 6. And we know that 4 and 6 multiplied together is 24. But neither one of these are prime. So I can factor or break down this 4 into 2 times 2. And I can factor or break down this 6 into 2 times 3. The other part of this is that 2, like we talked about over here, is a prime number. So is 3. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. And those are the only two factors that 3 has. So 3, 2, 2, and 2 are the prime factorization of 24. Okay, and if I hadn't been so sure, I do have this help, this question help that I could have used. So this is a video.
This factor tree shows all the prime factors of 24. 4 and 6 are factors of 24. 2 and 2 are factors of 4. 2 and 3 are factors of 6.
Okay.
2 and 3 are the prime factors of 24. 2.
All right. If I still didn't get it, I could have used the question help. Don't be afraid to read through this material. And then the Imagine teacher will be there to help you if you've tried and you're still not understanding. The next question says to drag each pair of numbers to show if their greatest common factor is less than 4, equal to 6, or greater than 6. Now we haven't talked about greatest common factor yet, although that is the topic for this unit. So let's look at what greatest common factor means. The greatest common factor, or is the greatest factor shared by 2 or more numbers. So the factors of 18 are 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, and 18. And the factors of 30 are 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 15, and 30. The common factors, or the factors they have in common, are 1, 2, 3, and 6. But if I'm looking for that greatest factor, I want to look at the one that's the biggest number they have in common, which would automatically tell me that it was 6. So the greatest common factor of 18 and 30 is 6. So if I'm looking at 12 and 24, and I'm looking for that greatest common factor, I know that 12 is divisible by 1, and so is 24. I know that 12 is divisible by 2, and 24 is also divisible by 2 because they're both even numbers, meaning that they can be divided by 2. 12 is divisible by 3 because 3 times 4 is 12. 24 is divisible by 3 because 3 times 8 is 24. So we know that 1, 2, and 3 are factors of 12 and 24. They're common factors. 12 is also divisible by 4 because 12 divided by 4 is 3. 24 is divisible by 4 because 6 times 4 is 24. But am I done? I know I've gotten to most of the factors of 12, except for 12. Is 24 divisible by 12? It is, isn't it? Which means that the greatest common factor of 12 and 24 is 12, and that means that it's greater than 6. How about 6 and 24? Well, we just talked about how 12 has 6 and 24 has 6 because you can divide 12 by 6 and get 2 and 24 by 6 and get 4. So I know that it has 6 in common. It has other common factors too, but we want to go for the biggest one. So that's going to be 6. 12 and 16. Well, we know 12 is not something they're going to have in common, but let's start at 1. 1 is a factor for both. They're both even, so 2 has to be a factor for both numbers. 16 is not divisible by 3, but it is divisible by 4. And 12 is also divisible by 4. 16 has 8 as a factor, but 12 does not. So we know that we can't use 8, and 16 has 16 as a factor, but 12 does not. So we know that 16 cannot be used. And 16 is also not divisible by 12, which means that the factor that they have in common has to be 4. Again, if you're struggling with this, you can use the Math Help video.
Numbers from your problem. What is the greatest common factor of 6 and 20? GCF stands for greatest common factor. Let's start with 6. What whole numbers can you multiply to get 6? 1 times 6, 2 times 3. So 1, 2, 3, and 6 are the factors of 6. Now 20. What whole numbers can you multiply to get 20? 1 times 20, 2 times 10, 4 times 5. So 1, 2, 4, 5, 10, and 20 are the factors of 20. The common factors of 6 and 20 are the factors that they both have. 6 and 20 both have 1 and 2 as factors. So 1 and 2 are the common factors. That means the greatest common factor of 6 and 20 is 2.
All right, but let's say that didn't really help me very much, and I need some more help. I also have this diagram that we can look at to see all of the ways that we can break down two numbers. Okay, so there are my factors for 8. 1 and 8, 2 and 4, 4 and 2, 8 and 1. If I'm still struggling, I can ask the live teacher for help as well. Now 3. We talked about 3 in the last problem. Is a prime number, which means that the only factors that they have are 3 and 1. Now 4 doesn't have 3, but 4 has 1. 3 doesn't have 2, but 3 has 1, which means that their greatest common factor is actually 1. 6 and 20 have 1 in common. They're both even, so they must have 2 in common. But 20 is not divisible by 3, even though 6 is. And 20 is not divisible by 6, even though 6 is. 6 isn't divisible by 4, even though 20 is, and 6 is not divisible by 5, even though 20 is. So that would mean that their common factor, their greatest common factor, is only 2, and that's okay, even though it's a smaller number. Now, 2 and 3 are both prime, which means that the only common factor they have is 1, because it is the only factor other than the number itself that it has. Julio wants to rewrite 48 plus 18 using the greatest common factor and distributive property. Which expression should he write? Well, that would mean that I need to know what distributive property is, and I don't know that yet. So I'm going to read this definition by clicking on that word. It says, a number multiplied by 2 addends is the sum of the product of each addend and the number. Well, that was confusing, but what I think it's saying is 3 plus 4 times 2. So I have 3 plus 4, and I'm doing that twice. So I'm going to distribute or share this 2 with the 3, and distribute or share this 2 with the 4 by multiplication, which gives me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Blue, just like here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 2 times 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So distributive property just means that we are either putting in or taking out that greatest common factor. So I need to know what the greatest common factor of 48 and 18 is. They both have 1 in common because we know that that's a factor of every number. Both of them are even, which means that they have 2 in common. 18 is divisible by 3 and 6 together as factor pair. 48 is also divisible by 3, but I don't remember what the pair is, so I'm going to check. 48 divided by 3. 16. Aha! Okay. 48 is divisible by 4 also. That's 12. 18 is divisible by 4 because 4 times 6 is 18. Neither one are divisible by 5. 48 is divisible by 6, and that's 8. And 18 is divisible by 6, and that's 3. So that's probably where we're going to have to stop because 48 isn't divisible by 18, and 18 is out of factors after that. So I'm going to say that it's probably not 3 because we talked about the 6, and these 3 have that 6. Now if I take the 6 away, because 6 times 8 is 48, I'm going to be halfway there, but I have to take the 6 out of both of them, because when I distribute this 6, I'm going to do 6 times 8 and 6 times 18, and that's not really what I want. I want this number 18 to be in my answer. Now for this one, that would happen because 6 times 8 is 48 and 6 times 3 is 18. So I would end up with 48 plus 18. But I just wanted to point out this last one, 6 times 48 and 6 times 18. Is that going to be the same answer as 6 times 8 and 6 times 3? I didn't think so. So this answer would be the right answer. Now, here is the other thing that I wanted to point out about this one. This is not completely wrong. Remember when we did 48 divided by 3, we did get 16. And we do know that 18 divided by 3 is 6. But the question asks us to take out the greatest common factor, the whole common factor, the greatest amount of it. And so that means that I have to take the 6 out. This is not wrong, it's just not taking the greatest common factor out. And when we're using distributive property, we want to take that greatest common factor. All right, I hope this tutorial helped you. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask.